Okay, this lecture is all about different parts of a city. Before we start looking at how cities become a world city, we need to start looking how a city functions and how it's changed, and that will help you to explain the urban dynamics. So I'm just going to take you through the different parts of a city and then help you to explain how they've changed. The keywords there: CBD, inner city, outer city, manufacturing, low class, suburbs, and land values. So let's have a look at different parts of a city. A city does have many parts, and they do change over time, and the models that I'm going to show you, the different words, they do change and they're interchangeable. So just remember that. So when I talk about the CBD, I'm talking about the Central Business District. You can see in this photo a characteristic of a CBD is tall skyscrapers. Obviously this is in Sydney, and this is what we're going to see in the Sydney field trip. So when we say CBD, this is the Central Business District, and it is normally in the centre of the city. Surrounding it is the inner city. Now this photo again is from Sydney. And when we talk about inner city, there's two characteristics. The housing is low quality housing. That's a picture of what low quality housing is. And traditionally in the inner city is where manufacturing occurs. Manufacturing, there I've got a use of robots, but would be done by hand traditionally, and that's why you need low quality housing surrounding manufacturing, because that's where your workers live, and they used to be able just to walk across the road to where things were made. Manufacturing really now is talking about factories and everything done by hand, conveyor belts by people. Now it's done by robots. On the outskirts of the inner city is what we call the outer city. Houses, shops get a little bit bigger, a bit more spread out. So yeah, that's what the outer city is. Traditionally the housing is better quality, a little bit more expensive. Land value, however, is still high in the CBD compared to the outer city. The quality of housing is better. You need more money to live in them. Then you've got the suburbs. Suburbs surround the outer city. Houses are very big, and that's basically where the rich live. Now, the affluent people, how do they get to their places of work in the CBD? Well, they commute. And that's how cities have grown from small central business districts all the way out to the suburbs. So if you look at Sydney as an example, we've got the CBD at Circular Quay, and then some of the suburbs are as far as the Central Coast and Hornsby. We can put this the different parts of the city into a really basic diagram. In black there you've got that ring of the CBD. In the outskirts and the grey parts you've got the inner city housing and manufacturing section, surrounded by the outer city and suburbs. If I chop that diagram in half and showed you what it would look like a transect from the middle outwards, this is what it would look like. CBD traditionally is the centre of business, hence the skyscrapers. Land values are very, very expensive, and as you go out towards the inner city, land values decrease. Houses increase in size. They are detached, then become semi-detached and detached houses, and also in the inner cities where we get a lot of factories. Why do people live in the suburbs? Because it's quieter, nicer, not as polluted, not as noisy. Geographers have used different parts of cities to try and model the behaviour, the functioning of a city. Burges did his first studies on Chicago in America, and basically he said that most towns and cities grew outwards from an old centre equally in all directions. So we've got the CBD here, and then the other parts of this settlement grew around that. Very simplistic, very easy to follow. So everything grows out of the centre. Certainly the case of Sydney. Circular Quay was the central centre part of Sydney, and has grown substantially in 200 years. Also, we've got with the concentric model, we've got the inner city area is known as zone of transition or the twilight zone. So basically what we've got there, we've got the CBD and then the area of light manufacturing in black and blue. Basically at night, that's when it's called the twilight zone, where not many people are there. Why? Because that's where businesses are, that's where factories are. At night, when not many people are working, there's not many people living there. They start commuting outside or transitioning to the outer zones, where the low quality residential houses is in the inner city, and then as we go out towards the suburbs, housing quality gets bigger. That's why it's called the zone of transition. People transition out there when work's over and vice versa during the day when they're at work. Another land use model, another geographer, Hoyt, developed his model after looking at public transport and saying that the light manufacturing and the medium quality housing and high quality housing followed patterns along with transport. Light manufacturing was a good example, especially with the development of motorways, because anything manufactured could easily get transported to where it's needed. As you can see, they're a lot more complex. As we start looking at urban dynamics and look at our Sydney land use model, we see that the CBD is not always in the middle, and there's not always just one of them. Sydney, as well as London, has got several CBD districts, and the different types of housing does vary. Okay, that's a brief introduction into the different sections of a city.